This is Mastering Your Wealth with David Gagnon, the podcast.
I think that's something important to think about when it comes to retirement is there's always that checklist. There's always that to-do list, right? I'm going to check on my 401k. Maybe I'll reallocate some money. Maybe I'll add more contributions. Or, oh, by the way, I know it's been on my calendar to meet with somebody like David and talk about my financial future, but this and that got in the way. Well, here's the deal. We know it's the middle of summer. We know folks are out there having a blast with family and friends, vacations and whatnot, but keep in mind here, we are going into July, which means there's only about 5 more months left. So have you thought about your finances in a way of putting together a checklist? Well, David and I were talking. We said, you know what? Now's a really good time to do a mid-year checklist on your finances and on your retirement income plan. And to make it simple, David, what are a couple of these items we need to be aware of?
Well, first of all, a lot of these things we're going to talk about, and we'll go through a couple of checklists of items to think about. You really have to work off of a financial plan, and it's got to be personalized. And if you have a plan that is basically a financial GPS of where you are today and where you want to have be later in life as far as retirement and all the things in between, whether it's putting children through school, buying a home, there's a lot of financial decisions. But if you can work off of a plan, that plan analysis will identify the benefits and the solutions that you need to make it all work. And a lot of people kind of wing it because they don't really know how to pull all this together. So it's like building a house. You got to have a set of drawings to work off of. But when it comes to making some of these decisions, a lot of it is going to be personalized. But one big thing is people really aren't maximizing their savings in their 401k plans and IRAs. I see that a lot. And that's one thing people should take a look at is, are you capable and is it affordable to put more into your plan? And also, if you're age 50 or older, you can do a catch-up and put more money into the plan. Now, a lot of people aren't aware that their employer might be matching some of their savings. So you got to really take a look at whether that's a benefit that's available to you or not. But when we're talking about these retirement plan contributions, you could put money in. Hopefully your employer has a 401k Roth option and a pre-tax traditional 401k option, because as you start making these decisions on putting money into your retirement plans, and if you're looking into the future with how you're saving today and how it's going to be taxed, you'll have a better idea as to how much you really should be putting into the 401k Roth option and the 401k pre-tax option. Because what I find a lot is people are putting all their money in their pre-tax retirement option, and when we forecast with their plan that we design into the future to see what the required minimum distributions might look like and the tax bill that goes along with it and the increase in tax rates that could ultimately happen over time when you add it to all your other income, we're finding a very costly tax mistake that people are going to be faced with at a time they can't fix it. So that's why planning and looking into the future with what you're doing today is very important. People have to set goals. Some people want to retire at a certain age.
Sure.
And everybody's got a certain lifestyle spending amount. And one of the biggest problems that people have when we initiate a plan with them is one of the things we're going to ask for is, what do you want to live on? What do you want to spend every month, net of taxes? And most people don't know that number. Do you know your number?
I have no idea. I'll be really honest with you.
That's probably the most difficult exercise that we need to get people through as we're compiling all their information. And our paraplanner, Frank, who begins working with people on the outset of getting their initial forecast analysis done, can help people kind of think through their budget and their spending objectives. And we model out their plan on a personalized basis. Some people want to know that they can buy a car every 5-6 years, or we can model out if somebody has children that it will be going through college. How do we plan that financially? But then how do we plan the long term for retirement? It's a process that once we get people through, it's very enlightening because people get the clarity they need as to what they should be doing with their financial decisions today and how to allocate their money accordingly that optimizes the outcome for them in the future. Another thing is people aren't too familiar with all their different investment strategies and options that might be available to them. Obviously, in a 401k, you're limited to a bucket of mutual funds typically, or target date funds. But when we start educating people on what's outside of the 401k to create better value with less risk and create an opportunity to take better control over the outcome into the future, because there's a lot of uncertainty in the market today, right?
Absolutely.
And people are very vulnerable currently because everything seems to be at market highs. And when you're at such a high point with all this uncertainty and all this craziness going on, the market could go south in a very quick and fast way, yet people don't have airbags on their money or strategies or hedging in place to soften that blow. And that is a key thing. If you can create an investment plan strategy that has a lot less volatility and more consistency in returns, you're going to build more wealth and take less risk over time and have more income in retirement. And we educate how this works and how it looks when we meet with people, because they need to understand these financial concepts and techniques, because it just puts them in a better position to be successful with their money decisions.
You know, you're right. I mean, it's all about understanding your plan and working your plan. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, a lot of folks can be overwhelmed by these type of conversations and decisions. But, I mean, can you kind of give me an example of maybe someone that's come in and you've had this conversation with?
There's quite a few client examples, but, you know, one client that really sticks out in my mind is somebody that reached out to me about 14 years ago. Very successful consultant. He's amassed a lot of money in his pre-tax retirement account. So at the time he reached out to me, and he was working with an advisor for 28 years, but he just didn't feel comfortable about the tax side of what he was going to be exposed to in the future. And he was right, because when I did his planning review and his forecast analysis, nobody ever told him about his required minimum distributions, and he was going to have a sizable sum in his pre-tax retirement account. And that really kind of blindsided him. He didn't realize how costly that tax bill was going to be when he hit his RMD age, which for him was 70 and a half, and he's there now. So what we did was we put together a forward-looking tax strategy, and we restructured his plan in such a way that he was going to lower his RMDs by putting his money and paying tax on the money. Some of it was a Roth conversion, but most of it was a Roth alternative conversion that created more value in his estate. And you know, I just received an email from him the other day, and he's still having to take more in his RMDs than what he needs to live on. So he had so much money in his pre-tax retirement account, it was very painful to restructure everything, because you got to pay the tax on the money eventually, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so when we get to people younger in age and we kind of guide them through the setting up of their personalized tax strategy to reduce their taxes in the future, they can make small changes with little pain for big changes later with substantial gain, if that makes sense. Because we get so many people that reach out to us that might be 3, 4, 5 years before retirement, and trying to restructure their tax diversification plan requires paying some taxes. Well, it's much more painful when you have amassed a lot of money in your pre-tax retirement accounts shortly before you plan to retire, to make yourself more tax efficient through the rest of your retirement years. But in any case, you know, he was 14 years away from when he was going to retire, and we've been restructuring his plan ever since. But it's something that you need to look into the future with what you're doing today to see really what makes the best financial sense in these planning strategies. But what we were able to do when we restructure everything was almost double the size of his estate with some of the tools that we use in his tax plan, which was something he really wanted to accomplish, because he's got 3 boys, and they have families, and you know, they're probably in their 40s now, but they were going to inherit most of his money in these pre-tax retirement accounts. And with the law change that has occurred a few years back, where you can't stretch an IRA out that you inherit as a non-spouse, you have to take all that retirement money in 10 years from the date of death of who you inherited it from. Now, when you look at what that might do to the erosion of that wealth transfer, these children would have received this money in their highest income earning years, likely in their 50s or 60s, and they would have to distribute his dad's IRA money within 10 years from their death, adding that income to all their other income. They would have lost more than 50% of that asset that they inherited because of that. Now that we were able to restructure his plan and his estate plan accordingly to be much more tax efficient and create some financial leverage by repositioning those pre-tax retirement accounts, they were going to, instead of getting less than 50% on the dollar of the inherited IRA, they're going to get a multiple of dollars because of how we set up the plan.
Now, David, think about this. When it comes to spending, do you consider yourself a tightwad, or are you just kind of loose with the money? Where do you think you fall on the scale?
I don't think I'm a tightwad. I give it a lot of thought to, if I'm going to buy a large ticket item, I do a lot of research. Mm-hmm. But I have a methodical thought process before I buy something.
As I would hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing what you do for a living, of course.
Since I do so much of my own home construction and I save a lot of money as a result, I don't get cheesy on the tools I buy. I buy quality tools, quality materials. That's because I'm saving so much money by doing it myself. Mm-hmm. I always look at the cost versus value. So if it's a car, I'll take a look at spending more on a car that I know will last and give me a lot of miles. Well, Lexus is a great automobile that I've had great success with. Lexus. Toyota engines are great. The thing is, the engines last very long, but the bodies rot out because of all the stuff they put on the roads in the winter. It just corrodes everything. So, I try to extend the life of the cars by putting some undercoating on them. I don't get cheap on things that when I buy them, but I put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah. I think absolutely. You got to put, some thought into these big purchases. And I bring up the conversation, are you frugal? Or are you just kind of loosey-goosey with your money? University of Michigan marketing professor Scott Rick, he wrote a book about it. It's called Tightwads and Spending Thrifts, if you want to check that out. Morningstar asked him for a way to show tightwads that it's okay to spend, and here's what he says.
We often think of budgeting as a way to restrict spending, but a tightwad can use budgeting to loosen up. They know that just left to their own devices, if they see something fun that they're considering, they're not going to be able to justify the purchase in the moment. They won't be able to convince themselves that they can afford it. But if they, in advance, budget some money, earmark some money as fun, optional money, it's there when these fun opportunities present themselves and it's accessible, and they've planned for this already.
Okay, I see where he's going with this, because at the end of the day, there's two different people. There's people that are really, they still keep a checkbook, they're budgeting, they're watching every penny. There's other folks that don't even look at the price tag of things, they're just going on with life. And, when you enter retirement, no matter which way on the spending coin you're on there, the thing that changes is that paycheck stops. So the mentality has to shift a little bit when it comes to spending. But some folks are so hesitant to spend their hard-earned retirement money. I mean, you literally have to sit down with them and say, listen, please spend this money.
The way we help people overcome the fear of spending their money is we put together their analysis we talk about. We project into the future with what their spending goals are today, adjust that for inflation and taxes, and we use very conservative assumptions on what their money is earning, and in reality, their money is likely going to earn more. But if we can run very conservative projections and show that somebody can take a vacation, for instance, that they may want to spend $5,000 a year on or $10,000, we can model that out and see if it's all going to work out and whether they run out of money or not. And we also model a lot of things. People need cars. They need to do home improvements. They need to put kids through college maybe, or spend some money on grandchildren. We can kind of run the numbers very conservatively to see that it is affordable and they can relax when they want to spend these dollars. And when you have this analysis done, it's not something that you're guessing at. It's all methodical. It's the details are in your analysis. And when you get into retirement, the other component that's so important is to have a strategic income distribution plan, so that your investments are aligned according to what your income needs call for, and your spending habits will require into the future. And that's one of the things we see that people are out of whack on. Their investment plan is not aligned with their income planning needs. And so we can show people how to structure things accordingly so that they have an income they can't outlive. They have it positioned very tax efficiently, so you're not paying more than your fair share of taxes. So if we can get a plan in place before they retire, that helps them there. But we also want to have airbags on the money, to have maybe a backup strategy for out-of-pocket health care. So there's a lot of things and moving parts we look at that can enhance the plan and give people the visual of seeing their own numbers on this analysis to show them that they can do this. And that has helped people kind of relax in retirement and enjoy retirement without the financial anxiety of the unknown. Because if you're not planning, it's kind of in your mind a guessing game, right? You don't want to be in that position, do you?
For more details or to sit down with David for your complimentary financial GPS, visit masteringyourwealthradio.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, BWA, a registered investment advisor and an affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and First Financial Planners are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BWA, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents.
Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice and should not be relied on as such. You are encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional.
Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone.
David Gagnon and First Financial Planners are not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.
Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interest of our clients and to make full disclosure of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure of the ADV 2A Item 4 for additional information.